start the experiment, let's look at what we need.
We need some kind of fat, tap water, and sodium hydroxide.
One common use for sodium hydroxide is in drain cleaners, so that's what we will use for our experiment. But remember to be careful because concentrated solutions of sodium hydroxide is very corrosive, and when handling those solutions, always wear proper protection gear.
We will also need a pot and something to stir with, 2 thermometers, a beaker and a spoon, a scale, a mold to make our soap in, and plastic wrap.
The amount of sodium hydroxide you'll need is dependent on how much and what type of fat you use. Today we're going to use a combination of different fats. We're going to use coconut butter, rapeseed oil, and olive oil.
For these, we simply take the combined weight in grams and multiply by 0.13 to get the amount of sodium hydroxide to use.
Alright, let's do it.
We will use 100 grams of coconut butter, 100 grams of rapeseed oil, and 100 grams of olive oil. And now we can calculate how much sodium hydroxide we will need.
For the water, we need about double the amount compared to sodium hydroxide.
But before we dissolve the sodium hydroxide, we need to get our protection gear on.
And now comes the most critical part of the experiment, so listen up.
When we dissolve the sodium hydroxide, make sure to be in a well-ventilated area or even outside. Measure the right amount of sodium hydroxide and then carefully pour it into the water while stirring. It's very important that we dissolve the sodium hydroxide in the water and not the other way around. The solution is not just very basic, the temperature also changes.
When we dissolve the sodium hydroxide in the water, the solution gets really hot. So we want this warm solution to cool down a little bit before we mix it with the fats.
In fact, we want both solutions to be at around 50 degrees Celsius, so we're heating up the fats while leaving the sodium hydroxide solution to cool. When the two solutions are both at 50 degrees Celsius, it's time to mix them. We slowly pour the sodium hydroxide solution into the mixture of fats while continuously stirring. With your teacher's approval, now when the sodium hydroxide solution is not as concentrated anymore, it's okay to work without protection gear as long as you're careful.
Now the two solutions are mixed, but that's not enough. Now we gotta keep on stirring for about 15 to 60 minutes until we see a trace when we stir. So I suggest you guys take turns doing this.
While you wait for your mixture to get ready, you can prepare your soap mold. A good idea is to use a large mold and then line the bottom with plastic wrap. After about 1 hour of stirring, your mixture should be ready.
And all we have to do now is to pour it in the mold.
Spread it out evenly and don't make it too thick because it will expand a bit when it dries.
And now we'll just leave it like this for 2 days.
After 2 days, take the block of soap out of the mold and slice it into smaller pieces, and then let these pieces dry for about 4 to 5 weeks. During this time, the pH of the soap will decrease a lot.